Welcome everyone. My name is Elizabeth Dodd and I'll be Chair and Moderator for today's webinar for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. In today's webinar, you will be given an overview of the capabilities of the US Department of Veterans Affairs Smart Home project. This webinar is part of a series of sessions being facilitated by Community Resourcing for the Community Care Smart Assistive Technology Collaborative. Community Resourcing uses their international expertise and networks to build community capacity through empowerment, knowledge transfer, skills enhancement, research and development projects. Community Resourcing has been funded by the Queensland Government to bring together an online platform for community care service providers who are interested in collaborating on issues and practices related to smart assistive technology. Today's session will be delivered by Jan Yashevich. Jan Yashevich holds a PhD from the University of Oregon. From 2009 to 2015, Jan was a rehabilitation research scientist at the United States Department of Veterans Affairs in Tampa, Florida. In 2010, he was successful in obtaining a grant to develop a smart home for veterans with traumatic brain injury based on ultra-wide band tracking technology at the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital's Polytrauma Transitional Rehabilitation Program. As a result of this success of the initial project, Jan was successful in obtaining an additional grant to expand the smart home concept into individual veterans' homes. In today's webinar, Jan will give a brief overview and demonstration of the basic functionality of the VA Smart Home that has been implemented. Please feel free to post questions in the question pane, as there will be an opportunity for these to be answered at the end of the webinar. Welcome, Jan, to today's webinar.
Thank you, Liz, for the opportunity to give this presentation. I wanted to go a brief overview of our smart home project at the James A. Haley Veterans Hospital, which started out in 2010 and it's still ongoing. First of all, I would like to say that this is not an overview of all the various technologies used for assisted technologies. Carrie Peterson, who gave an excellent presentation using technologies for dementia care in the home, really nicely summarized all the types of technologies and issues of using them. This talk is really much more about an implementation of some of the technologies she had discussed. The goals of the VA Smart Home originally was: 1, to reduce the caregiver burden, 2, to prevent or to delay institutionalization, and 2, to increase patient quality of life. A fourth one is also about empowering the caregiver and the veteran to make choices of their health care, making their own choices and empowering them. So it is very much a patient-centric opportunity. Okay, the essential idea behind the smart home is: 1, is to do fall detection, to detect when patient or the client is in a dangerous area, in the kitchen or leaving the house unattended, turn off devices to warn veterans of dangerous situations like a hot stove, signal caregivers about various patient activity. It was also designed initially to be a cognitive prosthetic, which provides verbal cues and auditory cues through screens and watches, which provide task reminders to the patient. It provides activities of daily living instructions for patients throughout the day, for example, how to make sandwiches or to do laundry, provide various cues to the patient that a door is unlocked, it's time to go up for a walk or to do exercise. It also provides reports and analyses that determines activities and which goals have been met or have not been met, provides status reports using the web, desktop, and on mobile applications, reports that show trends and improvements in the long run. Text message to the caregiver clinician based on various states and activities are also provided. The next slide gives you a conceptual overview of the VA Smart Home. On the left column, you see manual entries of and external data sources, manual entries, for example, calendars and to-do lists. It is also, then we have various sensors which are integrated into the smart home, depending on the needs and issues we're trying to solve, into a sensor network, and also external devices such as, like indicated here, heart rate monitors, weight scales. These are all inputted into a central server which monitors and analyzes and assorts all of the sensors network on the left. And on the right side, we see essentially three things. A web app, which is the portal into the smart home. It is used by the caregiver and clinical team. Second is a screen client, which is a dedicated tablet in the house, which is used by the patient, which is the interactive portal with the smart home. And the third one is the text and email, which sends out notification if certain things have been carried out or have not been carried out. I'd like to first talk about the web application. So we try to keep this separate conceptually. The web app is used for viewing reports and historical data. The web app is also used to create messages as tasks and configure patient data. It is essentially an administrative portal. It also allows a caregiver and the care team to determine which information is displayed, what functionality is provided, which is dependent on what type of sensors are installed in the smart home. So if some sensors, for example, motion sensors, are not configured in the smart home, those functionality that are dependent on the motion sensors are not provided. The second one is the screen client. It is a tablet installed in the home, mounted in a kitchen table or on the wall. It is the primary interactive modality for the patient. It is what the patient sees and interacts with. It is physically separate but tightly integrated with the web application. So if a message is inputted into the web app by the caregiver, it then appears at the screen client. For example, here we have a question, did you go to the store? That question is actually inputted in the web app or generated automatically in the web app, and it appears in the screen client in the house. And the patient then can press yes or no. That information is fed back into the web app and logged and can be displayed, or a message sent by email that the patient did go or did not go to the store. Like here, the third one is text and email. That in the previous example, if the patient responds yes or no, then that yes or no can be optionally displayed or given to the caregiver by an email or text. How this all works is really inputted and controlled in the web application. Now let me go back a bit more detail into the web app page. It is arranged, as you can see, it has a range of series of tiles that have specific functions and contain information that allows for simple setup of the smart home. The functionality is scalable and flexible and is dependent on the client needs. In some situation, you might only have 2 or 3 tiles because that is what is needed in the house. In some other, where you have more sensors in the larger facilities, you have many more tiles because you have more sensors. The caregiver can choose which tiles are relevant and appear on the web app. So for example, if you have a system which would provide you with 4 tiles, the caregiver can decide, no, I only need 1 or 2 tiles that I really need to focus on. The caregiver can disable those other tiles that they don't need, even though it is available for them in the background. The functionality, as I said previously, is related to the types of sensors installed and the desired functionality. For example, what behavioral problems are we trying to solve, and which behaviors are we trying to reinforce? This is a really important concept to understand. Tiles are automatically hidden if the functionality does not exist. So, for a simple, inexpensive system implementation, the web app may only have 3 or 4 tiles, and the caregiver, as mentioned previously, can decide which of those 3 or 4 tiles that they actually want to use and display. For a far more sophisticated, full-featured implementation of a smart home with larger features, more tiles appear, as in this example. If we have, in a previous slide, you will see a web tab saying medication. If you click on that tile, it displays when the patient is scheduled to take their medication and evidence that they took it. This is also dependent on kind of sensors. If we have a instrumented medication box which can detect that the pills have been taken or tilted, it will register that in the system. If you use motion sensors and also the button presses, the motion sensors will tell you that the person is next to the medication area, and that gets logged, that they actually lifted up the medication box, pressed the button, and tilted it. Those all get logged, and that gives you confidence that they actually took the medication. Those features are not always necessary because sometimes a patient is quite good in taking medication. When they're in medication, to pick up the medication box, you're pretty confident they did take medication because they understand if they don't take medication, they'll have some implications. So, but they sometimes just need need help in reminding that they need to take medication at a certain time, and this system will provide the reminder that they have medications due. It also has a quick look which allows a caregiver to see when they took the medication in that week, and if they were scheduled, green, or if they were not scheduled, or if they took medications or missed a medication. Another tile example is the interaction tile. The interaction tile is based upon having motion tracking capability in the home or in a facility. It tracks every time that someone is within 10 feet of a patient or clinician in the same room. These activities are reported by the day, and statistics are queried by the week. In this example, you can see that a caregiver has seen Dr. Scott 5 times in the week for 55 minutes in total, and the maximum time that they interacted with Dr. Scott was 12 minutes and 13 seconds. The next tile is shower. The shower depends upon sensors installed in showers that detect wetness or that water is flowing. It displays when the shower was wet and evidence that they took a shower. Some patients with traumatic brain injury may have difficulty in remembering, conducting personal hygiene. And sometimes you need to remind them that they took showers, or to see whether or not they took a shower. The quick look allows you to see when they took a shower that week. It can determine how long the patient was in the shower or the duration. In the same way, you can see in the shower matrix the time they were in the shower, they were in the bathroom, the water was detected, and that the drawer was open. The drawer here might be drawer for towel or underwear, or any of things that which are important. And a quick look, you can see that they've been regularly taking showers daily. On Monday, the 26th of, they took 2 showers at 8:15 and 9:06. The next tile is the room and activity. It tracks every time that someone enters or exits a predefined area. A predefined area could be a room or a smaller area such as a treadmill, bed, workout area. Again, the activities are collated by the day and statistics are queried by the week. So it gives you a nice overview of the activity of the patient within the day and the week. The next tile is the movement tile. Movement reports whether or not when a patient first moved and when they moved last. A patient wears a small tag, and these are picked up in sensors mounted on the walls throughout the facility or in the house. It reports a total distance that patient or the tag moved each day. It also provides you an inactivity report, which gives you information when somebody has not moved for 1 hour or has not moved that day, or their tag is near a floor. With having motion sensors in the house, you can reconstruct the paths throughout the day, or throughout the month, the week, or however long you're tracking people. It displays the paths or the activities throughout the day. It gives you a breadcrumb trail. From this, you can pretty much extract lots of information about their activities and what they're doing or what they're not doing. We also have the capability to track GPS outside if they have a phone with them. Having the motion tracking capability also allows you to calculate certain metrics, in this example called Fractal D, which displays the measure of is a measure of the straightness of a walk. So if somebody walks in a completely straight line, the Fractal D is 1. If a person walks like a drunkard or looks around or moves around the room a lot, then the Fractal D actually increases. Research by Dr. Bill Kearns from the University of South Florida, my colleague, has found that Fractal D appears to be related to cognitive status as well as compliance, probability of behavioral prompting, and false prediction. So if somebody has a very high Fractal D, they're more likely, it's been shown that they are more likely to be at false risk. I've provided a series of, on the bottom of references, which gives you more information on peer-reviewed journals about the measure of Fractal D as we use it in the smart home. The next tile is the calendar tile, which is in the base functionality of the smart home. Doesn't matter how many sensors you install, the calendar functionality is always there. It gives you a patient-friendly quick look at a week's events, which is important. Which is important for to find out what when the caregiver wants to find out what they're doing throughout the day, and have a historical record. In this example, on the Monday, on the January 26th, at 8:05 they woke up. At 8:10 they took a shower, and at 8:30 they had breakfast, and then at 9 o'clock they took medications. The next tile is the messages. In the messages, if you click on it, it displays messages to the patient and responses from the patients. A caregiver can put in messages in the web app, and those messages at an appropriate time are displayed on the web client, the web client on the tablet in the house. The messages come from external calendar, a task list, or manually entered via the web or automatically by the system, especially for reoccurring tasks. Daily activity tab displays a list of assigned tasks and the status as to whether the task was completed in time. Completion is determined by the manual self-reporting by the patient, who touches an appropriate button on the screen client, or is done automatically if the appropriate sensor is present. The to-do list. The to-do list tab displays a list of to-do items and the status as whether the to-do item was completed, and it is linked to the screen client. So, fix the sink will appear on the screen client for the patient to see. Completion is determined by the manual self-reporting with yes or no on the screen client, or done automatically if the appropriate sensors is present. The sensor report is just giving an overview, provides raw data of any sensors associated with the patient. For example, we have the med box, that it's been tilted at a certain time, that it also provides a living room temperature at 76 degrees, which is what 24 degrees Celsius, and whether or not drawers are open or closed. This just provides you information if the system is healthy and is working. The weekly report provides a synopsis of the task and what has been happening in the house, especially designed for the caregiver team, the healthcare team. For example, here we have the average velocity of somebody walking is 1.8 feet per second, and the 6-week average is 3.3. And in this one, it's considered not very good. We also have a number of times they've exited the building, how many times they complied with tasks and to-do lists. This is the screen client, so all the messages and to-do lists which are entered in the web application appear on the tablet. The patient sees and interactions with the screen with all the messages and to-do lists entered in the web app. The patient can interact with the screen client by clicking if a task has been completed. In return, the interaction is reported back to the web app. It also contained instructional videos on how to do sequential tasks and strategies, which sometimes people with traumatic brain injury have problems organizing or remembering which task for a certain task, which appropriate things to do. For example, making sandwiches, to put the butter on the sandwich, and then peanut butter, and then open the fridge and put everything back in. Then the text and email, as noted, for tasks which are important to the caregiver if they have not taken medication, or if they have taken medication, that is reported and sent by the smart home back to the caregiver. So the caregiver can be at a coffee shop and they will get messages as appropriate, as been set up, what kind of information they want to know, be notified. That's it. I would like to acknowledge that this project was supported by grants from the United States Department of Veterans Affairs, Veteran Health Administration, and the Office of Geriatric and Extended Care, the New Models of Care program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jan, for your informative presentation this afternoon. We've had some questions come through over the course of the session. The first question is from Mohan Karunithy. In the design of your VA smart home system, which cohort was your main focus in catering for, and how flexible is it to be scalable to other domains of aged care?
Originally, the project was catered to veterans with traumatic brain injury, although we can be scaled up to and adapted to other cohorts, for example, the elderly, people with spinal cord injury, and people with ALS. a lot of the same problems, and the functionality is already embedded and can be adapted very easily.
That's great, thank you. We've had another question come through from Anne Livingston. Thank you, Jan, for this presentation. During the project, was there an emphasis on co-design of the technology with users of this? I was wondering if you could detail how this was organised and how this might have enhanced the platform development.
Thank you, Anne, for that question. That's essential to the success of the project. We recognize that you have to have involvement of the clinician, the caregiver, and the patients who are using this system. Without their input and without telling us what they need and how they want it presented, what works and what doesn't, it would be pointless to do the project. So we had focus groups, and all of these people were intimately involved in the design and implementation, and they still provide us feedback and modifications to that as they get used to it and they start to understand. A lot of the features were actually requested by the patients by the user group once they understood what the system can do for them.
Thank you very much, and that's all the questions we've had come through. Thanks again, Jan, for your time today.
Okay.